British Columbia, Canada. A quiet, serene destination filled with beautiful coastlines, mountains, lakes, and forests. The perfect place for a first-degree homicide. Our story begins with Raymond Serra, a large lumberjack, Marcus Jordan, his friend, and William Zachary, the local maple syrup seller and supplier. It is a day at the tavern like any other, with the three friends Sarah, Jordan, and Zachary drinking and gambling as they normally do. Regulars at Moe's, the three men live in the small town. Little did they know, one of them wouldn't live to see the light of day. Drunk, Sarah and Zachary get into an argument, and William Zachary drags a drunken Raymond Serra out of the tavern. "20 minutes later, Zachary re-enters the tavern, pays for his drinks, and goes home. Marcus Jordan gets into his truck and leaves as well. Raymond Serra is not seen again. The next morning, Marcus Jordan is walking his dog in the woods, unaware of Raymond Serra's disappearance. Suddenly, his dog catches the scent of maple syrup. Jordan contacts the authorities and police rush to the scene. Raymond's lungs are full of maple syrup and his heart is stopped. There are signs of struggling. The investigation is led by Detective Liam, a young detective hoping to solve his first big case.
The disappearance of Raymond Serra was my first big case. Murders taking place in small rural areas are easier to solve in some ways and more difficult in others. For example, some towns like this one have a small population, narrowing down the potential suspects and allowing us to spend more time investigating each suspect. On the other hand, unlike the city, towns like this are more spread out, and eyewitnesses are much less common. Security cameras are also scarce and only cover small portions of the town.
Tire marks are found at the scene of the crime, along with a footprint. Both are sent to the lab for analysis. The tire mark belongs to a 1990s Ford Ranger. The only person in the sleepy town who owns a Ford Ranger is Marcus Jordan. He is brought in for questioning. The footprint belongs to a size 11 boot. There are several people in town with such footwear.
Good morning.
Good morning, Detective.
My name is Detective Liam, and I'd like to ask you a couple questions about what occurred yesterday, if that's all right. Starting off, where were you last night?
I was at Moe's with Zach and Ray, but I was so stinking drunk that I couldn't get out my seat.
Do you have any recollection of any dialogue between Zachary and Raymond?
Oh yeah, they were speaking normally at first, but Zach said something about owing money, and two started brawling.
Do you recall having given Zachary the keys to your vehicle?
I did.
Would you care to elaborate?
Sorry, I can't remember.
Well, thank you for your time. Good day.
A search warrant is issued for Jordan's home. Searching his residence, police find his Ford Ranger pickup truck, but don't find any more evidence. The car keys are sent to the crime lab for analysis. Meanwhile, Detective Liam goes to William Zachary's residence and asks him some questions.
Mr. Zachary, if you don't mind, I would like to ask you a couple of questions on the disappearance and demise of Raymond Serra.
You can come in.
Detective Liam quickly notices Zachary's own large boots, possibly the same that could have caused such a footprint at the scene of the crime, and enters William Zachary's home.
Although Marcus Jordan's questioning pointed fingers at William Zachary, nothing from Zachary's questioning stood out. However, I did notice that he had large boots, which could have caused a footprint at the shack. I took a sample of his footprint before leaving.
After an hour of analysis and numerous testings, I discovered microscopic traces of DNA on the keys belonging to both Jordan and Zachary. and I immediately reported my findings to Detective Liam and the BCPD.
With mentions of his name from Marcus Jordan, as well as similar boots to the footprint of the crime and DNA on the car keys, a warrant is issued for William Zachary's residence, and officers are dispatched to Zachary's residence. The police find audit logs, cash, and a journal in Zachary's home. The audit logs confirm that Zachary is in fact a local seller of maple syrup, the same kind that is found in the vat in the woods. More importantly, Zachary's journal reveals that Raymond Serra owed Zachary a lot of money from gambling. With his newly discovered motive, William Zachary is arrested and put on trial.
People of a jury. From what evidence we have, it would seem that after an argument with Raymond Serra at Moe's Tavern, William Zachary borrowed Marcus Jordan's keys and drove to his shack in the woods and drowned Serra there. This explains the DNA on Jordan's truck keys and his footprints at the shack. Journals from Zachary's house also suggest that Serra owed him money from gambling. Because of this, we can safely say that Zachary killed Raymond Serra.
At the trial, Marcus Jordan gives his testimony of what happened the night of Raymond Serra's death. His alibi checks out.
I was really intoxicated the night the both of them got into a fight. In fact, I was so intoxicated that I was too afraid to move, because I didn't want to cause any harm. So I just sat in my chair and ordered another beer. I was good friends with Ray, and I would never have any reasons to harm the guy. Can't say the same about Williams. He and Ray always get into hardcore arguments over gambling and who's owing who money.
William Zachary refuses to give a testimony. After a quick session, the jury reached a verdict, and the verdict is that Zachary is guilty.
Oh, throw your hands behind your back, sir. Going off to jail.
William Zachary is convicted for first-degree homicide and is sentenced to life in prison. He received 450 years for murder, as well as 50 years for style. It isn't every day that someone is drowned in maple syrup. It was only thanks to Detective Liam, as well as the use of forensic evidence and equipment in the crime lab, that the case was able to be solved.